Welcome back to Newsmaker Live. Thank you very much for staying tuned. We have with us Mr. Wilfred Pierre, the first Vice President of the CSA, and of course the President of the organization, Ms. Mary Isaac. Going back to that point you made about inflation, 10.3% over the last 3 years is your quote, and bringing in VAT as justification for the 9.5% that you're asking of government. I've heard that argument before, but it's pretty much a moot point, since VAT for most of the period under review or being negotiated was not in effect. VAT only came through in October. So you have 6 months of VAT as opposed to a 3-year period of negotiation. How do you justify using VAT as a negotiating tool?
But what you have to realize is that the back pay is going to be paid hopefully this month or next month. The back pay is going to be paid in a VAT environment of 15%. So even though the VAT came in October, we started negotiations 3 years down the road. So the back pay is going to be paid, and it's going to be spent in a VAT environment, right? So that money is going to attract VAT on it, even though the VAT came in October. But because of the thing is retroactive, and it's being paid in April or probably May, I think they might pay the back pay, depending on how we conclude negotiations. So it's going to have an effect on the back pay itself, right? So that is the situation. But really the inflation rate, as you had indicated, is what we are concerned about, and that has really caused a serious erosion of the purchasing power of not only our members, but the public in general. And in addition to that, I don't know if you can recall, just before the VAT was being implemented, you saw prices were going up slightly. And then the VAT came in at 15%, and the price went up. The prices went up, even to the extent that we had inflation for this year of close to 4.3% for this year. And it only had just VAT for just about 3 months. But what is also significant was that the VAT had to replace certain taxes, for example, C-tax. And in one instance, for example, electronics had, there was a 45% C-tax on electronic items. With the VAT, the C-tax is out, and 15% is placed on electronics. So invariably, you would have had a reduction in the price of electronics. That did not happen. That did not happen because there's a phenomenon where prices are sticky going down.
Right.
So you have a situation where the merchants themselves now kept the prices, even though the prices should have gone down because they have a 15% VAT instead of 44%.
But isn't it a matter of simple economics, demand and supply? Because if people were not willing to pay that price for the commodities, then the merchants would have no other choice than to reduce their price in order for the merchandise to move.
But sometimes the consumer has no choice. What do you do when you need the item?
Well, you substitute. I mean, the little economics, I know you substitute. You find substitute items, and there are many goods that can be substituted.
No, but there's some goods you can't substitute.
Well, even the substitutes are just as
toilet
high.
paper, you can't substitute toilet paper.
well, you can.
No, but it is serious. I mean, when you really look at, and I can understand the government position, expecting that some of the items would have been reduced, and these items did not reduce. Now, that is market demand and supply and demand issues that are being played out here. What could have happened is probably you would have had some kind of price control mechanism that would have kicked in to really cause the prices to be at a certain level. But again, this is business and market.
Right, exactly.
So
you don't want government getting involved in
that is correct.
But
what it has done is create more inflation. That's what has happened. You know.
But part of that inflation, can we not blame that inflation on the 14.5% that was paid by the government in the last triennium?
That has never happened. I mean, if you can cite to me where you had inflation being caused by wages, increasing wages, I mean, that has not happened.
The government was forced to increase taxes as a result of those increased wages to pay for those increased wages.
Yes, they
forcing everything else up.
No. Most of the inflation, over 90% of the inflation that exists in St. Lucia is as a result of cost push inflation, and that is inflation caused as a result of imports of items that and the prices have gone up. There has never been a time where, and the government use that all the time, you know. I mean, in the last negotiations we had, they were saying that increasing the wage bill would cause a spiral of inflation within the economy. They use that. But that has never happened. That has never happened. Wages. Inflation is not caused by wage increase, right? They use that all the time. The 4.3%, we have not received a wage increase yet, but inflation was 4.3%. Is it the wage increase that caused that? The 7% the inflation that was experienced in 2006, was it wage increase that caused that? No.
Well, you could argue that, you know, this round, that 4.3% that you're quoting, could be caused by the VAT. I mean,
no, but it's not really the VAT that caused it. It's really the imports of goods and services, and again, the VAT added to it slightly. Yeah. Because in the case of when Barbados implemented the VAT, in 1 year, the inflation went up by 7%, and that caused them to re-look back at some of the items. And luckily, what we have done is to put a set of items, you know, outside of the ambit of the VAT itself.
What is the CSA really looking to get? Because the other unions have accepted weakening your position. You would agree that this has happened since you went in as a TUF and you're coming out as a CSA, just one of the many negotiating partners. What are you hoping to get, and what can you get realistically out of the negotiations with the GNT? Well,
we have tabled a new set of proposals, right? And I believe that they are giving that favorable consideration. We are looking at something that is going to benefit our members and help them cope with the type of inflation out there, as well as the VAT. We are saying that a 4% is not going to cut it. So maybe some sort of allowance, like what they have given to some of the other brother or sister unions, because it is only CSA that was not benefiting from an allowance that cuts right across, board, right? So now we are looking at we are looking for an allowance that is going to assist us.
What allowance are you looking at?
Well, I think we are going to leave it at that for now, because we do not want to divulge everything that we've put on the table.
But your members must know, though.
Yes. Our members know. We made a presentation, and they took a decision to ratify, you know, whatever we have presented to the GNT. And they were extremely excited about it, because most of it came from they themselves. You know, there were suggestions that they made that we put together as a package and took it forward.
So the CSA is amenable to accepting the 4% with other conditions?
That's right.
Okay, and this is your new
because
offer
at this
table.
time, yeah, because at this time we really cannot push for an increase of the 4%. We understand, we have always understood that, you know, government is going through, well, the country is going through a hard time, and we understand that. We know where that's coming from. Although our members, we are central services, and we also have an idea of how much government can afford to pay, right? But since the others have already said, well, we are satisfied with 4, you understand? We cannot be too greedy or anything like that, and, you know, stick to this 9.5.
But you have always said that the government can pay more than 4. But then, you know, what has come out as well, the CSA has never produced evidence to support that assertion. What evidence do you have, apart from being involved in the central service, that you can show people and say, okay, tangibly, this is what I have to show you that government can afford the more than 4.5% that has been requested?
Well, for us to do that, we would have to be able to bring all government's books to you and open them up.
Well, you know I wouldn't mind that.
Okay, but and even to get access to those things, we would be exposing certain members in certain places. Yes, you understand?
I wouldn't mind that either.
We do mind. We have to protect our members at all costs, you know. But we are saying that we know what is in there. And also, a lot of, when we say that we know government can afford to pay a certain amount, we are also making some assumptions about government's policies. Okay? Now, we do not want to go out criticizing government policy and so on and so forth, or we cannot go and say to government what their priorities should be, right? But we are saying, if you have to practice prudent fiscal behavior, we know that you can give more than the 4% and sustain it. You understand? But are you going to practice prudent fiscal, behavior? You understand? That is also on the table when a person is going to suggest that government can pay and government can sustain. You understand? So it is not that we cannot show, but to show would be, and we do not have to show, because even on the GNT, we have the Ministry of Finance, and they know what is in government's coffers. We have our PS of Public Service and, all that stuff. So we do not have to show that how government can pay, but we can tell you that we know government can pay.
So when they came with the 000, we knew that they could do much better than that.
Well, we all knew that this was the, I mean, the 20. How much did the union start at?
That
16% was a ridiculous amount.
Correct.
I mean, as well,
we knew
that the 0% was a ridiculous amount of the government.
16 was not ridiculous because we consider the economic. We consider the economic.
I mean, from
a
a disinterested party,
right?
We can say that the 0% was a ridiculous amount. And the 16% was a ridiculous amount. From a disinterested... of course, I'm sure that the CSA would argue otherwise. And the government would argue, yes, of course, it was a realistic proposal to give you, to offer 0%.
But we would never argue that the 16% was a ridiculous
I understand that. That's what I'm saying. I understand that. Okay. Now, I mean, from 16 to 4%, that's a big swing there. Let's go to the relationship with the TUF. Pretty much in this process, the TUF left the CSA to hold the bag, standing on its own, notwithstanding the president of the TUF, which owes some allegiance, I would say, to the member unions, pulled away, accepted, whereas, the talk was that TUF was not accepting the 4%. How is the relationship, first of all, between CSA and the TUF?
Well, that's an interesting question because we haven't met since, we had a final meeting with the GNT under the TUF umbrella, where TUF came with us and said, okay, we would like CSA to present their case, okay, and TUF took a back seat. Right? Then we had two people that we sent in to speak to the GNT to intercede on behalf of CSA as well, right? Because we were told that the GNT will not negotiate under duress. Now, if we send in two people to intercede, they are not negotiating with CSA. They are talking to the two people that we have asked to intercede, okay? And we did not see that as a situation where one party ought to take we're not negotiating approach because you're on strike, because it is because of the action of the same negotiating team that caused the members to be on strike. There was a period when the members were not on strike, you understand? And when the GNT was supposed to negotiate with CSA and they said, we cannot do that. You see what I'm saying? So now we have to just put all of that on the back burner and try to move forward, and this is what I believe we have tried to do with the GNT.
But what about the TUF?
We also, we came to a point where the TUF was just standing behind us and not really assisting with the process. So, and TUF was saying to us, you have to make a choice. It's either you allow TUF to stand with you, or you allow the two interceders to go ahead and plead on your behalf. And we thought that was unfair. So at that point, given that the TUF was just saying they are standing in solidarity and not really doing anything, we decided as CSA, those in the room at the time, because we were being put under pressure right there and then to take a decision, you understand? And we said, well, we would have to go back, discuss with the members, because we cannot pull out of TUF on our own. It has to be a membership decision. And we were told, no, you have to decide here and now. And I spoke to the vice president, and the GS was there with us, and we decided, okay, we are going to take the measure that we believe is in our best interest. And from where we stood at the time, it seemed that the interceders would have been able to plead on our behalf better than the TUF.
So you have pulled away, you have pulled out of the TUF as a result?
No, at the moment we said, okay, we would like you all to step aside for now, And let us see how far we can go using the two gentlemen that we asked to intercede on our behalf. And this is what happened. That was the last time that we interacted at a TUF level.
But what we found was a little strange of the TUF was that they indicated that they were in solidarity with us. And the very fact that they were not signing was just a statement of solidarity. And then we just heard on Saturday that they went to sign. They never told us, well, you know, fellas, we have changed our minds and we're going to sign. I mean, just the courtesy of coming and say, well, we are signing, you guys are all alone, but we can give you all moral, whatever support. And it was just one of the persons in the media that just called us to say, you know, the fellas signing in on Saturday. And we found that very surprising. So we really have to look at what that solidarity really meant and things like that.
So you mean you have not had a chance to assess the situation and decide whether the CSA should be part of the TUF or whether it would be a better proposition for you to pull out completely and negotiate going forward on your own?
Well, the thing about negotiations is that it is not that TUF, we must negotiate under the TUF umbrella. Okay? Because you know there's NWU, there's Seamen and Waterfront, they negotiate on their own. The problem we have in the public service is that everyone in a grade goes right across the board. Police, nurses. And so it is more convenient for government to negotiate with the public service under the TUF umbrella. It is just a marriage of convenience that's there that causes us to negotiate salaries under the TUF, because we negotiate working conditions by ourselves separately. Each union negotiates. But because of the grade system, it is easier for government to negotiate under the TUF umbrella with the other trade unions. However, it is not impossible for the unions to negotiate on their own. You understand? But so the thing with TUF does not really have to do with negotiations as such. TUF is a federation that's supposed to provide solidarity, training, and just support to the other union members. It doesn't exist solely for negotiation purposes. So we are still, as far as we are concerned, members of TUF. But the decision to pull out or stay rests with the members. You understand? What
environment must exist for the CSA to be 100% comfortable with being part of TUF or continuing that cozy relationship that you enjoyed prior to this split, this separation?
Well, we really want them to tell us what solidarity is all about. I mean, if you say that you're holding back signing, and that shows that's the level of your solidarity, and all of a sudden we just hear that you just sign in and that's it, and you have told us nothing. What solidarity? What is the assistance that you're going to be given to us and things so? And so we have to review all of that, and the members have taken that. They have had discussion on that, the way forward for the TUF, and I think in our coming meeting we're going to have some persons coming up to the mic and saying what they would like to see, because it's a member organization. I mean, I hear people talk about how we should be leading the members. I mean, our organization is not that way. It's not an autocratic, autocratic type of organization. Each member has the opportunity freely to come up and voice his opinion, right? And collectively we make decisions where everybody vote, right? And that is the decision that is followed. It is not for Mary Isaac or Wilfred Pierre to really come and say, well, look, this is where we want you to go. We don't do that. That is not the way how unions operate. Maybe that's how businesses operate. Maybe that's how probably the government would operate. But that is not how trade unions operate. See?
So do you have more respect for the police, because they were the ones who took that decision and announced that they were going to accept the 4% than you would have for the TUF and probably the president of the SLTU, who is the president of the TUF, as you indicated, who said that he would stand in solidarity, or the union. I'll not point him out specifically, but his union said that they would stand in solidarity, and at the end of the day you heard that they were signing behind your backs if it were that way, signing behind your backs without informing you. Even without a courtesy of saying, okay, well, we decided we'll go this way.
But the police is different. I mean, when they took the 4%. They actually indicated that to us. They called us. Even today, even, I mean, in our impasse, we still have discussions with them. And we understand what they did and why they did what they did. When you really look at the police, I mean, the police have been for a long period, have been trying to get a risk allowance, and they finally got a risk allowance of $75, which really, if you add that to the 4%, we really look at it as a 7%. So they run with this thing, you know, and I agree with them. I think it was a good thing. They saw a benefit for the members, and the 75 cut across for the members. It's not for us. The $75 was not for us. So we still at 4%, but they were at 4% plus the $75 risk allowance. So we understand why they went for it, and we have no quarrels with the police. In fact, some of the things that we're trying to do is really for the police also. And we've had, when we make our discussions with persons and the things that we want, especially the housing things that we're looking at, we actually trying to bring the police into it ourselves. So we have no problem with the police. What we had a slight problem is the level of solidarity that the TUF had indicated, and all of a sudden we just heard that they just went and just signed without having the courtesy to tell us, well, hey, you know, we're going to sign. This is the level of solidarity that we're going to give to you. You know, this is what it's going to be.
What kind of changes must take place within the TUF, the Federation, for you to be more comfortable? Because there are also some rumblings that the executive of the TUF do not represent the different unions that form the TUF. So, for example, the nursing representative on the TUF executive is not part of the Nurses Association. You have others as well.
How do you know all these things?
I'm a journalist. It's my duty to know these things. You know, there are other members. There are other members in the executive who do not represent the unions from which they come. What do you say about that?
Let me give you an example. When Mary Isaac became the president the very first time, the person that she beat, right, when she went for president, at the TUF meeting, when we were putting the executive for the TUF, Mary Isaac could not, the voting did not go in her favor. In fact, that guy ended up being on the TUF, even though Mary Isaac won against that individual. Now, there's a problem. I find there's a problem with that. You're not on the executive, right? You have just lost an election where Mary Isaac won, but you end up on the executive, on the TUF, and Mary Isaac is not. They have that is a problem. But there's another problem which we have to look at. The way how the voting rights is structured. So, for example, the existing executive at the TUF have a voting right. So here, when we come with, I think it's 3 persons. Each union comes with 3 persons to vote. All the executive members that are there, I have never heard that in my life before.
But it's your federation.
Yes,
you are the ones who agreed to the.
I agree.
To the construct of it.
I agree. I totally agree. But
so
I have never heard that before.
But
when the existing persons are up for, they're the ones, they have voting rights.
But what changes are necessary, therefore, for you to be comfortable to continue within the TUF?
They have to review the structure,
yeah.
to make it more organization-oriented as opposed to individual-oriented. For example, you talk about the nurse, right? She was president of nurses at the time of the election. So she got on the TUF. Well, she was voted in. But she was not voted in as president of nurses. She kept the position even after she was voted off the nurses executive. So what I'm saying is it should be the position, not the individual that is on the board. So if Mary Isaac is on the board now, when Mary Isaac is voted off from CSA's executive, whoever is voted in should automatically replace Mary Isaac on that board.
I don't see it as such a difficult thing. I would think that the best construct, and I mean, I hate to be putting my mouth in your business, but to me the best construct would be for the president or a representative of the organization to be on the TUF, and you have a rotating chairmanship.
That's correct.
So I mean, I don't know. I just thought that I would add that in there. I think it's time for us to take a break. When we come back, We'll continue our discussion, but we'll take your calls as well, so don't go away.